All right, this unit is on ratio and proportions. So get out your notebook, we'll take a few notes and we'll review what a ratio and proportion is and solve some problems. So write down the title, Ratio and Proportions, 3-1. A ratio is a comparison of two numbers, and it can be written as A over B, comparing A to B, and remember A colon B, or you can write it A to B. So that is a ratio. A proportion means that two ratios are equal to each other. So a proportion means that two ratios are equal. That means if two ratios are equal, then their cross products are equal. And that's important when we solve proportions. So the cross products of the ratios are also equal. What that means is here, if A is to B as C is to D, then A times D, that's the cross product, A times D, is equal to the cross product of CB. So AD equals CB. Remember, this was called the butterfly when we used to do proportions, if you remember that last year. All right, let's look at some example problems. All right, so write this down. We are to determine whether each pair of ratios forms a proportion. So for the first one, we have 4 is to 6 as 12 is to 16. If it's a proportion, then the cross products would be equal. So we would multiply 4 times 16, and we would see, is that equal to 6 times 12? So 4 times 16 is 64, and 6 times 12 is 72. So is this a proportion? No. Do the same thing with this one. So you're going to take 3 times 10. Is that equal to 5 times 6? And yes, it is, because 3 times 10 is 30. That equals 5 times 6. So yes, those two ratios are equal to each other. A ratio is just another name for a fraction as well. All right, let's try the next two. Now on this one it says to solve the proportion. So what we're going to do, since the cross products are equal, we're going to set up an equation. So write down the problem, 3/7 equals x plus 2 over 14. And then we're going to multiply 3 times 14. And we're going to set that equal to 7 times x plus 2. But be sure to put the x plus 2 in parentheses. So 3 times 14 is 42. And then I have to distribute with my equation. So I get 7x plus 14. And then I solve it just like I would an equation. So I would subtract 14 from both sides, and I would get 7x is equal to 28. Negative 20, no, not negative, positive. Then I divide by 7, and so x is equal to 4. And I can check that if I would like to. So let's do that so that we know how to do that. So we would take 3 is over 7 is equal to, we found out that x was 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 over 14. Now is that proportional? 7 times 6 is 42. And 3 times 14 is 42. So yes, the answer x is 4. All right, let's try the next one. Okay, so here is a proportion, and we have 3 is to x as 5 is to x plus 6. So write that down, and we're just going to set up an equation by doing cross products. So I have 3 times x plus 6, be sure to put the x plus 6 in parentheses, is equal to 5x. So there's my equation. I'm just going to solve for x. So I do distributive property. 3x plus 18 is equal to 5x. Now remember, when you have variables on both sides, you need to subtract one or add one. If they're positive, you subtract. So we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. So that goes away. So I get 18 is equal to 2x. Divide by 2. So then x is equal to 9. And you can check that by plugging the x back into the original equation to see if it works. All right. All right, so those were the easy ones. Now we're going to do some word problems, which aren't hard. We just need to be able to set them up. So in a recent survey, 2 out of 3 dentists chose cavity. So 2 out of 3 chose cavity. The top number represents cavity, choosing cavity, and the bottom number represents the total. All right, so then it says if 12 dentists chose cavity, that means 12 would go on top where cavity is, how many total were surveyed? So that's easy. Now we just do cross products to solve. So I would do 2x is equal to 3 times 12, which is 36. Then I would divide by 2. And so 36 divided by 2, we get x equals 18. So 18 dentists were surveyed. And you can write that down. 18 dentists were surveyed. Okay. Number 6. All right, let's try this problem. Hershey Foods makes a batch of chocolate with 75 pounds of cocoa beans. If we know the ratio of cocoa beans to milk is 5 to 4, so let's write that down. 5 to 4, and 5, the ratio is cocoa beans, so the beans on top, and then milk on the bottom. How many gallons of milk will they use? So we know we're looking for the gallons of milk. And if we have 75 pounds of cocoa on the top, that would be our proportion. So then again, I do cross products. So I get 5x is equal to 4 times 75. 4 times 75 is 300. So then I would divide by 5, divide by 5. So 300 divided by 5. X is equal to 60, and 60 represents the gallons of milk. Gallons of milk. All right, let's do another one. All right, so number 7. In the movie Jurassic Park, dinosaurs were scale models, and so was the sport utility vehicle that T-Rex overturned. So the vehicle was made to the scale of 1 inch to 8 inches. So our scale would be the scale. The actual vehicle was 14 feet long. So if we do scale to actual, that would be our setup, how we would set it up for our ratio. So we would have 1 inch to 8 inches. So that was our scale. And the actual vehicle was 14 feet long. So we have to take the 14 feet and turn that into inches because everything here is in inches. So if we do 14 feet and we multiply that times 12 inches, that'll convert that into inches, which I believe is 168 inches. So if this was the actual vehicle, so we're going to put that on the bottom, 168 inches. So then what we're looking for is what was the length of the model sport utility vehicle. So we would just cross multiply again. So we'd get 168 is equal to 8x. Now if I divide that by 8, I end up getting x is equal to 21 inches long. So the length of the model sport utility vehicle was 21 inches long. All right, I think we have one more. Let's see. Nope, actually that's it. So let's do a whisk. Write down when and where you watch this video. Summarize the video, what you know about ratios and proportions, and how to set up problems. And then if you have any questions, that's where you would write it down. All right, thanks for watching.